Have you ever been the nicest person in the room and still felt invisible? You say yes to everything. You never argue. You let people cut in line, metaphorically and literally. And somewhere along the way, you started to notice something strange. People don't seem to respect you more for it. They respect you less. What if I told you there's a psychological reason for this? That niceness and respect don't always move together, and sometimes they move in opposite directions. We've all been told that being nice is the answer, that kindness wins. And in the long run it does, but only a specific kind of kindness. The other kind? The kind that comes from fear, from the need to be liked, from an inability to say no. That kind doesn't make people respect you, it makes them forget you. Let's start with something you've probably felt but couldn't name. There's a moment that almost everyone who's too nice has experienced. You do something generous, you go out of your way, and instead of gratitude you get indifference, maybe even annoyance. And you think, wait, I was just trying to help. Why does this feel wrong? Psychologists have a name for this, the doormat effect. When you give without limits, when your niceness comes from a fear of rejection rather than genuine care, you stop being seen as a person. You become a resource, and resources don't get respected, they get used. But it gets worse than that, because the doormat effect isn't just about being taken advantage of. It's about something subtler and far more damaging. It's about what happens in people's minds when they encounter someone who never pushes back. In 2013, researchers at Stanford and Carnegie Mellon ran a series of experiments on how we perceive nice people versus competent people. Participants were shown profiles of individuals described as either warm and agreeable or cold and competent. Then they were asked to rate their respect for each person. The results were brutal. The warm and agreeable people were liked, but they were not respected. They were rated as less capable, less influential, and, critically, people said they would not want them in leadership positions. The competent but colder individuals? Respected, admired, seen as leaders. Now here's the part that should make you stop and think. When researchers combined warmth with competence, a person who was both kind and clearly capable, respect shot up dramatically. Higher than competence alone, higher than warmth alone. The lesson isn't that you should stop being nice. It's that niceness without visible competence or backbone signals something unconscious in people's minds. It signals, this person has no leverage, they need approval, they can be safely ignored. And here's where it gets even stranger. There's a famous psychological principle called the Ben Franklin effect. Franklin discovered that if you ask someone for a small favor, they actually like you more, not less. Why? Because their brain rationalizes, I helped this person, therefore I must like them. But there's a dark mirror to this effect, one that nobody talks about. When you do too much for someone, when you give without ever receiving, when you help without ever being helped, you deny them the opportunity to invest in you. And here's what happens next. Their brain, searching for an explanation, lands on something dangerous. If this person never asks for anything, if they just give and give, maybe they don't have anything worth asking for. Maybe they're not worth investing in. The very thing you think will make people value you, relentless giving, is the thing that makes them devalue you. Researchers studying workplace dynamics found that employees who never said no, who took on every extra task, who were always available, they weren't promoted. They were pitied. Sometimes they were even resented, because extreme niceness doesn't read as generosity. It reads as desperation, and desperation repels respect. But here's what's worth thinking about. If this is true, if being too nice costs you respect, then what does the opposite look like? Not cruelty, that's not the alternative. The alternative is something far more precise. The ancient Greeks had a word for it, sophrosony, the harmony between extremes, knowing when to give and when to hold back. True kindness isn't about saying yes to everything. It's about knowing what to say yes to. People who command respect while remaining kind share 3 traits. First, they have visible standards. They don't accept bad treatment with a smile. When something crosses a line, they name it. Not aggressively, just clearly. And clarity, to the human brain, reads as confidence. Second, they're comfortable with disappointing people. This is the hard one. The reason most people are too nice is that they're terrified of being disliked. But the people who are respected aren't respected because everyone likes them. They're respected because they're consistent. And consistency sometimes means saying no. Third, they give from strength, not from need. Their kindness isn't a bid for approval, it's a choice. And choices command respect, needs don't. There's a quiet tragedy in being too nice. You give and give, hoping that your generosity will be returned with love and respect. But without boundaries, without a spine, without the willingness to occasionally disappoint people, kindness becomes invisible. And maybe the real problem isn't kindness at all. Maybe it's the confusion between being nice and being good. Being nice is about avoiding conflict, about keeping the peace at any cost, about needing everyone to like you. Being good is different. Being good means doing the right thing, even when it costs you, even when people don't like you for it. The people who are truly respected aren't the ones who never say no. They're the ones who say no when it matters, and yes when it counts. Kindness without boundaries is self-erasure. Kindness with boundaries is strength. And the people who seem the softest, the ones who are kind because they choose to be, not because they're afraid not to be. Those people haven't found weakness. They've found a strength the rest of us are still trying to understand.